The buzzer beaters, the crowd, the Cinderellas. College basketball is a beautiful game filled with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The start of every season brings a fresh start for every team and every player. A chance for teams to fold under the burden of their expectations. A chance for teams to receive redemption for a previous season that was cut shorter than they had hoped. And of course, a chance for teams and players expected to do nothing to shock the world. This channel will be dedicated to discussing and analyzing all that goes on in the college basketball world. Welcome to the CBB Report. There is unfortunately lots of time until the beginning of the college basketball season on November 8th. With the transfer portal winding down and declaring for the draft over, rosters are starting to take shape. With that, let's go through each conference and rank the teams. Today, let's do our too early 2022-2023 rankings for one of the most storied conferences in college basketball, the PAC-12. While I love ranking teams, I do not believe it provides a clear picture of the competition levels between teams. The difference between a team at rank 7 and a team at rank 8 can be extremely marginal, and both teams can probably flip-flop on my rankings. The same thing goes for 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and etc. etc. That is why I've created a tier list to show off different levels of competition. In the Pac-12, I've created 5 tiers, the 5th being the lowest and the 1st being the highest. Today, let's rank Tier 4, which I've named the leftovers. Tier 4 are the teams that are not in the cellar, but at the same time are not good enough to be that relevant for the season. That's why they are the leftovers. They're not as good as the main course, but leftovers are never bad. Better than spoiled leftovers for sure, which is like Tier 5. All these teams will have some good players, but just do not have enough in totality to be anything but average. I struggled a lot with where to put these 3 teams as they're all super close. I moved them around multiple times and this was my hardest tier to configure, but finally I decided on this. The worst team in Tier 4 and the 10th best team in the Pac-12 is Washington. Last year the Huskies finished 17-15 overall and 11-9 in the Pac-12, which was good for 7th in the Pac-12. Washington was one of those mid-level teams that first got ravaged by the transfer portal before restocking on decent new transfer portal options. The Huskies lost 7 scholarship players, including 4 starters, and head coach Mike Hopkins replaced them with 3 true freshmen and 4 transfers. Many have the Huskies at 8 or 7, but I have my reservations. Maybe that is because I have my biases on filling out teams with the transfer portal. In college basketball, I strongly believe in continuity, and this new NIL deal means many mid-level teams will struggle with this continuity. This is exactly what happened to Washington, and it'll be harder to bring up a program that is constantly losing transfers and replacing them with other transfers, even if you could argue, like in the Huskies case, that the transfers are as good as those that were lost. Coach Hopkins recruited 4-star point guard recruit Corin Johnson from Garfield. He then recruited 4-star power forward recruit Tyler Linhart from Kings High School, and 3-star point guard recruit Keon Menefield from Phoenix Prep. Coach Hopkins also got 4 very good transfers in point guard Noah Williams, center Frank Kapnang, center Braxton Mee, and prize transfer small forward Keon Brooks from Kentucky. All some of these players are very good additions. Transfer Noah Williams should start at the 1. Williams actually transferred from in-state rival Washington State. There he averaged 9.5 points per game last year, but was a poor 3-point shooter at 26.2% per game. He was great defensively though, averaging 1.1 steals per game and a 97.2 defensive rating. PJ Fuller is another good defender in the backcourt, averaging 1.1 steals last year for Washington and 7.4 points per game and 1.9 points per game. Jamal Bay will probably start at small forward, and he averaged 9.4 points per game and 4.1 rebounds. The front court is the strong suit for the Huskies. Transfer Keon Brooks from Kentucky will be Washington's star this year. Brooks averaged 10.8 points per game for Kentucky and 4.4 boards per game, with a 55% true shooting percentage, and a 113.4 offensive rating and a 97.2 defensive rating. All solid stats. Transfer from Oregon, Frank Kapnang will start at the center. This was another transfer steal, as Kapnang had a very good freshman season for Oregon. He can take a big step up this year. The bench will feature the recruits and transfers not in the starting lineup, as well as Cole Bajema and Samuel Ariabi. The kryptonite for this team is their 3-point shooting. Nobody on this team could shoot the 3 better than a 34% clip last year. If teams play zone defense on Washington, they might be in a world of trouble. That's what I project will happen, plus some chemistry issues will hold them back. I think they are in for a 7-13 season, and that might be enough for head coach Mike Hopkins, who's already on the hot seat, to be fired. In the middle of Tier 4 and 9th in the Pac-12 is Utah. Last year, they finished 2nd to last in the Pac-12, with an 11-20 record and a 4-16 record in the conference. Despite such key losses as David Jenkins Jr. to Purdue, head coach Craig Smith had a good offseason. Smith got Ben Carlson, Mike Saunders, and Gavin Baxter from the transfer portal, and recruited high 3-star recruit Keba Kita from Wasatch Academy, and Wilgenes Exate Jr. from Mexico. This team is very underrated, as they also returned 5 of their top 7 scorers. Cincinnati transfer Mike Saunders should immediately start for Utah at the 1. Saunders is as reliable and solid a point guard as there is. He won't wow you, but he's exactly what you want in a veteran starting point guard. Last year in Cincinnati, Saunders averaged 7.3 points per game, shooting 36% from 3. He was also around 100 on both offensive and defensive rating. Joining Saunders in the backcourt will most likely be Rollie Worster. Worster is a solid player at the 2, shooting 32.8% from 3 and averaging 7.5 points per game last year. Lars Stefanovic will most likely start at small forward. Stefanovic also averaged 7.5 points per game on solid shooting splits. Stefanovic will have to improve his defense though if Utah wants to be at the top of Tier 4. All those three players are average Pac-12 players. Starting the front court will most likely be Marco Anthony and Brandon Carlson. Anthony was one of Utah's best players last year, averaging 9.1 points per game. Anthony is also stretch 4, as he's the third best three-point shooter on the team, shooting 35.3% from 3. At the center is Brandon Carlson. Brandon Carlson is one of the best centers in the Pac-12. Last year he had the second best offensive rating on the team with 111.7 offensive rating. He also led the team with an efficient 13.6 points per game. He can also somewhat shoot the 3, shooting 31% from 3 last year, giving Utah a stretch 5. The bench is okay as well. Transfer Ben Carlson comes from Wisconsin to bolster the front court depth. The recruits Keba Kita and Wilgenis Exalte Jr. will get key minutes as well. Gabe Madsen and Jackson Bradenschley should also get some minutes. This team is just very solid all around. They don't have a particular star other than the center, but they don't have much of a weakness. I project them to improve from last year and maybe go 8-12 or 9-11 and finish 9th in the Pac-12. The best team in Tier 4 and the 8th best team in the Pac-12 is Washington State. Last year, Washington State had a fantastic season, and their best in the last 10 years, finishing 22-15, 11-9, and 5th in the Pac-12. Though going into the season, the Cougars lost more than half their team's points in Noah Williams, Tyrell Roberts, and Michael Flowers, and also big man Efe Abogidi. Head coach Kyle Smith decided to hit the transfer portal with 2 goals in mind: better shooting and better size, and that is exactly what he did. They got prized high 4-star center recruit Adrame Dion-Gouye, Dylan Darling, and French recruit Maël Crespin. In the transfer portal, they got prize transfer Tennessee Justin Powell and Jabe Williams from St. Mary. Justin Powell should immediately start for the Cougars. He's a great transfer from Washington State who struggled with passing and assists last year. He only averaged 3.7 points per game last year, but averaged 10.7 points per 40 and had a solid 110.2 offensive rating and 97.6 defensive rating. He should be the floor general Washington State needs. TJ Bamba returns for the Cougars to start at the 2. Bamba is a dynamic scorer and can be the scoring star for the Cougars. Bamba averaged 7.7 points per game last season, shooting 36% from 3 and 3.4 rebounds per game. Like Powell, he also has solid offensive and defensive ratings. He will hopefully be the spark plug for this team. Rounding out the starting lineup at the 4 and 5 is Mohamed Gaia and Deshaun Jackson. Mohamed Gaia was considering leaving for the draft but decided to stay, and because he stayed, I have the Cougars at 8 instead of 10. Gaia is a great player, averaging 7.4 points per game and 5.4 rebounds a game last year. If he can be a double-double machine, the Cougars can get past 8th spot. He's also an okay stretch 4, shooting 28% from 3. Gaia is another player who has solid advanced stats on both defense and offense. Deshaun Jackson will be the center. Jackson averaged 6 points and 4.1 boards a game, and is just another solid player for this team. Jackson will hold down center defensively for the Cougars, and on offense, he's capable enough to score as a 3rd or 4th option. Finally, small forward Andrzej Jakiemowski is going to space the floor nicely, since last year he shot the 3 ball at a 38.3% clip, which was better than his actual field goal percentage. Fun fact. He's another big player at 6'8", and averaged almost 4 boards last year. It'll be hard to get rebounds against Washington State, due to Jakiemowski, Jackson, and Gaia. Jakiemowski's 111.6 offensive rating suggests he can take a step up this year in scoring. The bench has a lot of upside. Jama Dionga, I believe, can fit right into the Pac-12 and can even steal Jackson's job by the end of the year. Jay Mullins is a transfer projected to come off the bench and can be a key impact player. We still have to see about Dylan Darling and Maël Crespin, but they can get limited minutes as well. Finally, expect to see Miles Rice and DJ Rodman thrown in some minutes as well. There really is no big weakness for this team on offense or defense. They're not the most talented, but plenty of players can take a step up. Coach Smith had a goal during the offseason and completed it. There's still plenty of talent on this team. Natural regression is going to happen from an incredible season last year, but I don't expect them to regress too much, and they'll be 10-10 and 8th in the Pac-12 and the best of the leftovers. That is my Pac-12 Tier 4 rankings, the leftovers. Let me know if you agree or not in the comments, and thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. Follow the TikTok, the CBV Report. Subscribe, like, and comment with your thoughts. Where was I right? Where do you think I went wrong? Let me know down below, and thank you for watching.